The trap springs. The wrecks of alien ships still burned near Mars when the second wave came. Their engines tore the silence of space, a thunder of light in the dark. This was not a raid. This was not punishment anymore. This was vengeance, the ray. Kassar High Command had sworn that humans would be broken in one strike, but now their shame was carved across the council halls. They had been mocked, humiliated, and beaten by those they had called primitive. And so, they sent more. Ships larger, stronger, furious. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Hale stood before the war table. His voice was calm. "The first trap worked," he said. "But now they come expecting it. They will not be blind again. They will not be reckless. This battle will decide if humanity survives the year." Beside him, Admiral Elena Cross nodded. "Then we change the game," she said. Her eyes flashed with quiet fire. "They expect ambush, they expect hidden guns, so we give them something else. Something they cannot expect." Orders spread like lightning across Earth's command. Ships moved in silence. Secret codes unlocked hidden stations on the far side of the asteroid belt. Doors opened that no alien eye had ever seen. From the shadows, the second layer of humanity's defenses awoke. The alien fleet arrived with fury. Their war drums were silence, their confidence broken, but their hunger for revenge burning hotter than ever. Their admiral, scarred from earlier disgrace, swore he would return with human skulls as trophies. When they reached Mars orbit, the humans were waiting. Dozens of ships stood in a line, their weapons charged, their hulls marked with Earth's flags. No fleeing, no hiding. This time they stood as if daring the enemy to come. The alien admiral sneered. "So, they finally grow brave," he hissed. "Destroy them all." The void lit with fire, beams slashed across space, torpedoes streaked, shields flared. The battle began. At first, it seemed the aliens were winning. Their weapons were stronger, their numbers greater. Human. Ships broke apart under the pressure. Burning wreckage scattered across the void. But Admiral Hale's voice cut steady through the chaos. "Hold the line," he ordered. "Make them believe." The alien fleet pushed harder. They believed victory was close. They believed humans had exhausted their tricks. And then, the void shifted from behind moons and drifting rocks. Entire hidden platforms lit up. Not the small railguns of before, but massive cannons, orbital spears, firing beams of molten energy. The weapons tore into alien ranks, cutting battleships in half, shredding cruisers to pieces. The trap had sprung again, but this time it was larger, more merciless. Alien crews screamed as their shields failed, their formations shattered. A dreadnought turned just in time to see 3 human destroyers ram into its side. Exploding with nuclear fire, the giant fell, torn apart, panic spread. The alien admiral roared for order, but fear had sunk its claws deep. The primitive enemy had been patient again. They had shown weakness to bait the trap, and the galaxy's proud warriors had fallen for it. On her flagship, Admiral Cross clenched her fists. Her voice was sharp. "Push them into the corridor," she commanded. The surviving human ship shifted, driving the aliens into a narrow path between 2 massive asteroids. The aliens rushed forward blindly, desperate to escape. They did not see the mines waiting. They did not see the satellites, hidden. Then the corridor exploded. Dozens of alien warships vanished in fire. The survivors broke in every direction, some running, some still trying to fight. But the trap had turned their fleet into a slaughter. On the bridge of his flagship, the alien admiral's scales turned pale. He realized too late. "They were never primitive," he whispered. His hands trembled as he gave the order to retreat. His fleet limped away, broken, bleeding, but humans did not chase. Not yet. Their message was already clear. Admiral Hale looked at the burning stars with cold eyes. His voice carried across the fleet. "We were underestimated," he said. "We were mocked, dismissed, laughed at. But today the galaxy learns the truth. Humanity is no longer prey." The cheers of his crew rose, but his face remained hard, for he knew the war was only beginning. The Council would not forgive humiliation twice. They would come again, stronger than ever. And when they did, Humanity would need to be ready. In the silence after the battle, the wrecks of alien warships drifted like broken crowns in the void. To the galaxy, they were trophies. To humanity, they were warnings. The trap had sprung. The first Armada was gone. The second Armada was crippled. But in the dark halls of the Council, plans for vengeance already burned, and somewhere deep in secret bases, human engineers whispered of weapons not yet revealed. Weapons that could shake not just fleets, but empires the galaxy had mocked them as primitive. Soon, the galaxy would beg for mercy, he wrath unleashed. The galaxy trembled after Mars. 2 alien fleets had been broken, crushed under what they once called primitive tricks. In Council, Chambers' silence turned to rage. The great powers who once laughed at humanity now demanded blood. The Cassar, humiliated twice, swore an oath. They would erase Earth itself from the stars. No colony, no city, no child would remain. And so they forged a war host larger than the first 2 combined. A fleet so vast it blotted entire constellations when it moved. Whispers spread through the galaxy. Could humans survive again? Or was their brief defiance about to be erased in fire? On Earth, preparations never stopped. Admiral Marcus Hale stood before his fleet commanders, his face calm, his voice hard. "The storm is coming," he said. "This is not a raid. This is not vengeance. This is extermination. If we fail there, will be no Earth left to save." Admiral Elena Cross leaned forward. "Then we show them what they fear most," she said. Her eyes gleamed with cold light. "Not our numbers, not our ships, but our will. We unleash the spear." The room went silent. Every officer understood what she meant. The orbital spear, humanity's most secret weapon, a weapon untested in battle, a weapon powerful enough to crack dreadnoughts in half, but it came with a price. It required a sacrifice. The alien Armada entered the system like a tidal wave. Their flagship was the size of a small moon, bristling with guns. Thousands of warships followed, engines burning, weapons charged. To them, this was not a battle. It was a cleansing. Human ships took formation near Earth's orbit, outnumbered, outgunned, shadows beside giants, yet they did not flee. The alien admiral sneered at the sight. His voice echoed across the fleet. "End this farce, burn their world. Show the galaxy that defiance against the Council is death." The void erupted. Alien beams slashed through human lines. Cruisers cracked. Corvettes shattered. Earth's defenders burned. But they did not break. They held, bleeding, fighting, stalling for time. Admiral Hale's voice rang through the comms. "All units, hold the enemy in range. Do not yield. The spear must have time." High above, hidden behind Earth's moon, the orbital spear awakened. It was not a ship, not a cannon, but a monstrous weapon built into the bones of an old orbital ring. Its coils glowed brighter than suns. Energy roared through it, unstable, dangerous, but it needed one thing: a living hand to guide the final ignition. On board the control station, Captain Rourke stood ready. His face pale, his body broken from past battles, yet his eyes steady. He knew what the mission meant. He knew he would not live to see the stars again. He pressed the comm, his voice steady but heavy. "For Earth, for humanity, for tomorrow." Then the spear fired. A single beam of light tore across the void, so bright it blinded every screen. It lanced through the alien Armada like a blade through flesh. Ships that had seemed untouchable were cut apart in seconds. Dreadnoughts cracked open, their insides spilling fire into space. The galaxy had never seen such a weapon. It was not just destruction. It was wrath itself unleashed. The alien admiral's eyes widened. His claws dug into the console. "Impossible," he hissed. "They should not have this power." But denial could not save his fleet. The orbital spear fired again, tearing another line of warships apart. Panic spread. Their perfect formation broke. Survivors screamed across comms, their voices filled with fear. Human ships, though battered, surged forward. Torpedoes streaked. Railguns roared. Every shot found a weakened enemy. The aliens tried to regroup, but their pride had already shattered. Admiral Cross stood on her bridge, her voice fierce. Push them back. Show them humanity's wrath. The void became a graveyard. Alien ships burst one after another. Some tried to flee, but human fighters hunted them. Others fought desperately, but their courage broke against the endless fire. At last, the massive flagship staggered. Its shields cracked, its weapons silent. The orbital spear charged for one final strike. On board the weapon, Captain Rourke smiled faintly. His body burned with pain as the overload rose. He whispered his last words. Primitive, huh? Watch us now! Then he triggered the final release. The beam tore through the alien flagship, splitting it in half. The explosion lit the system brighter than a sun. The shockwave rolled across space, leaving silence behind. The alien fleet was broken, shattered, bleeding. Their survivors scattered like frightened animals, begging for escape. On Earth, cheers rose, tears streamed. Humanity had survived the greatest storm yet. But Admiral Hale did not cheer. He stood in silence, his eyes heavy. "We have shown them our wrath," he said. "But this war is not over. The galaxy now knows our strength, and they will come again stronger, and we must be ready." In the wreckage of space, the burned pieces of alien ships drifted, a monument to what had just happened. Humanity, once mocked as primitive, had unleashed a weapon that shook the stars, and the galaxy would never forget. The last stand, the dreadnought, moved like a black mountain across the stars. Its weapons glowed with deadly fire, each pulse aimed at Earth. Every ship that tried to slow it had already burned away. Yet humanity was not finished. The last fleets, broken and bleeding, gathered for one final stand. The human commander, Captain Rourke, watched the screens from his flagship. His crew was silent. They all knew the truth. If the alien dreadnought reached Earth, the planet would die. "Report," Rourke said, his voice steady. "Shields at 30%. Ammunition almost gone. We cannot stop that monster in open fight," replied his first officer. Rourke nodded. He already knew. The plan was simple, brutal, and the only chance left. They had to board the dreadnought, plant explosives, and destroy it from inside. "Send the boarding teams," Rourke ordered. "We go now." Small human ships broke formation and raced forward. Fighters darted like sparks, drawing enemy fire. Dropships followed close behind, weaving between burning wrecks. Many were shot down, but some reached the dreadnought's surface. Magnetic clamps locked onto alien armor. Rourke led one of the teams. His dropship slammed against the dreadnought's hull, the air hot with sparks. "Breach it," he ordered. With a thunderous crack, human charges blew open a hole in the metal skin. Smoke and light poured out. The soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. Inside, the corridors were vast and alive, walls pulsing with alien technology. The aliens came quickly, tall figures with scaled armor and glowing weapons. Blades clashed, guns fired. The humans fought with fury, knowing every second mattered. "Push." "Forward," Rourke shouted. "We need the core." They cut through enemy squads, losing men with every corner. The hall shook as the dreadnought's main gun charged again. Earth itself was now in its sights. One soldier gasped. "Captain, if that gun fires—" "It won't," Rourke answered coldly. "Not if we finish this." The detonator lay in his hands, small and heavy. It was the last charge powerful enough to shatter the dreadnought's core. He kept it close, guarding it like his own life. Finally, the team reached the heart of the ship. Before them was a massive chamber, glowing with blue energy. The alien power core pulsed like a living sun, filling the air with heat. But guarding it was the alien warlord himself. The creature stood twice the height of a man, its armor black and edged with crimson light. Its voice thundered through the chamber. "Humans," it growled. "You are insects. You fight with fire, but fire burns out. Your Earth will be ash." Rourke raised his weapon. "Not today." The battle inside the chamber was chaos. Humans fired, the warlord swung his massive blade, and sparks filled the air. One by one, Rourke's soldiers fell. Yet they bought him time, seconds more with their lives. Rourke pressed forward, step by step, until the warlord towered over him. The alien's blade slashed, tearing armor from his chest. Rourke stumbled, but did not fall. With his last strength, he shoved the detonator deep into the glowing core. The warlord roared, striking again, but this time Rourke smiled. "For Earth," he whispered, pressing the trigger. The explosion began with silence. The core flared like a newborn star swallowing the chamber in white light. The humans left alive raced for their ships, fleeing through smoke-filled corridors as alarms screamed. Outside, the human fleets watched. The dreadnought slowed, its weapons flickering. Then, in a blinding wave, the entire ship tore apart. Fire rolled across the void, pieces of the alien Titan burning like falling suns. On the bridge of the flagship, the first officer stood trembling. "Captain Rourke?" There was no answer. Only the sight of the dreadnought breaking, burning, dying. Earth was safe. The human fleets cheered even in their grief. They had lost so much, but they had done the impossible. The dreadnought, the terror of 1,000 worlds, was no more. And at the center of it all was one human commander who had not lived to see victory, but whose sacrifice had saved everyone. In silence, the survivors turned their ships homeward. Behind them, the wreckage of the dreadnought drifted in ruins, proof that humanity was never primitive. The last stand. The dreadnought moved like a black mountain across the stars. Its weapons glowed with deadly fire, each pulse aimed at Earth. Every ship that tried to slow it had already burned away. Yet, humanity was not finished. The last fleets, broken and bleeding, gathered for one final stand. The human commander, Captain Rourke, watched the screens from his flagship. His crew was silent. They all knew the truth. If the alien dreadnought reached Earth, the planet would die. "Report," Rourke said, his voice steady. "Shields at 30%. Ammunition almost gone. We cannot stop that monster in open fight," replied his first officer. Rourke nodded. He already knew. The plan was simple, brutal, and the only chance left. They had to board the dreadnought, plant explosives, and destroy it from inside. "Send the boarding teams," Rourke ordered. "We go now." Small human ships broke formation and raced forward. Fighters darted like sparks, drawing enemy fire. Dropships followed close behind, weaving between burning wrecks. Many were shot down, but some reached the dreadnought's surface. Magnetic clamps locked onto alien armor. Rourke led one of the teams. His dropship slammed against the dreadnought's hull, the air hot with sparks. "Breach it," he ordered. With a thunderous crack, human charges blew open a hole in the metal. Skin, smoke, and light poured out. The soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. Inside, the corridors were vast and alive, walls pulsing with alien technology. The aliens came quickly, tall figures with scaled armor and glowing weapons. Blades clashed, guns fired. The humans fought with fury, knowing every second mattered. "Push." "Forward," Rourke shouted. "We need the core." They cut through enemy squads, losing men with every corner. The hall shook as the dreadnought's main gun charged again. Earth itself was now in its sights. One soldier gasped. "Captain, if that gun fires—" "It won't," Rourke answered coldly. "Not if we finish this." The detonator lay in his hands, small and heavy. It was the last charge powerful enough to shatter the dreadnought's core. He kept it close, guarding it like his own life. Finally, the team reached the heart of the ship. Before them was a massive chamber, glowing with blue energy. The alien power core pulsed like a living sun, filling the air with heat. But guarding it was the alien warlord himself. The creature stood twice the height of a man, its armor black and edged with crimson light. Its voice thundered through the chamber. "Humans," it growled. "You are insects. You fight with fire, but fire burns out. Your Earth will be ash." Rourke raised his weapon. Not today. The battle inside the chamber was chaos. Humans fired, the warlord swung his massive blade, and sparks filled the air. One by one, Rourke's soldiers fell. Yet they bought him time, seconds more with their lives. Rourke pressed forward, step by step, until the warlord towered over him. The alien's blade slashed, tearing armor from his chest. Rourke stumbled, but did not fall. With his last strength, he shoved the detonator deep into the glowing core. The warlord roared, striking again, but this time Rourke smiled. "For Earth," he whispered, pressing the trigger. The explosion began with silence. The core flared like a newborn star swallowing the chamber in white light. The humans left alive raced for their ships, fleeing through smoke-filled corridors as alarms screamed. Outside, the human fleets watched. The dreadnought slowed, its weapons flickering. Then, in a blinding wave, the entire ship tore apart. Fire rolled across the void, pieces of the alien Titan burning like falling suns. On the bridge of the flagship, the first officer stood trembling. "Captain Rourke?" There was no answer. Only the sight of the dreadnought breaking, burning, dying. Earth was safe. The human fleets cheered even in their grief. They had lost so much, but they had done the impossible. The dreadnought, the terror of 1,000 worlds, was no more. And at the center of it all was one human commander who had not lived to see victory, but whose sacrifice had saved everyone. In silence, the survivors turned their ships homeward. Behind them, the wreckage of the dreadnought drifted in ruins, proof that humanity was never primitive. The last stand. The dreadnought moved like a black mountain across the stars. Its weapons glowed with deadly fire, each pulse aimed at Earth. Every ship that tried to slow it had already burned away. Yet, humanity was not finished. The last fleets, broken and bleeding, gathered for one final stand. The human commander, Captain Rourke, watched the screens from his flagship. His crew was silent. They all knew the truth. If the alien dreadnought reached Earth, the planet would die. "Report," Rourke said, his voice steady. "Shields at 30%. Ammunition almost gone. We cannot stop that monster in open fight," replied his first officer. Rourke nodded. He already knew. The plan was simple, brutal, and the only chance left. They had to board the dreadnought, plant explosives, and destroy it from inside. "Send the boarding teams," Rourke ordered. "We go now." Small human ships broke formation and raced forward. Fighters darted like sparks, drawing enemy fire. Dropships followed close behind, weaving between burning wrecks. Many were shot down, but some reached the dreadnought's surface. Magnetic clamps locked onto alien armor. Rourke led one of the teams. Echo across the stars. The first clash was over, but its shockwaves moved faster than light. Whispers carried the story from one trader to another, from smugglers to mercenaries, from frightened refugees to bold captains. 3 human ships had faced 30, and half the enemy fleet had been left in ruins. It did not matter that the council called it an exaggeration. It did not matter that alien leaders dismissed it as rumor. The truth had already begun to spread in the marketplaces of neutral worlds. Voices dropped to a hush when humans were mentioned. Some aliens laughed nervously, shaking their heads. "Impossible. Humans cannot do that." But others leaned closer and whispered, "I heard it myself. My cousin saw the wreckage with his own eyes. The humans are not weak, they are dangerous." On distant battle stations, soldiers sharpened their weapons. They remembered how their commanders had told them humans were small and harmless. Now, fear crept into their eyes as they imagined fighting creatures who did not surrender. Stories grew larger with each telling, until human fighters were described as demons who fought even without ships. The echo of fear spread like wildfire. In the council chamber, arguments broke out. The elder lords pounded their staffs, their voices booming with arrogance. "Lies," they shouted. "The Dominion failed because of their own incompetence, not because of humans." But the younger delegates looked uneasy, their eyes darting between each other. They had heard too many stories to ignore, too many survivors repeating the same words. One young envoy stood and asked, "What if the warning was true? What if the humans are rising?" The chamber erupted in laughter, yet this time the laughter was thin, strained, forced. For deep down, even the most arrogant could not shake the unease growing inside them. Still, the council voted to ignore the matter. Their pride was too heavy, their blindness too deep. Meanwhile, in hidden corners of the galaxy, smaller races began to whisper in hope. For centuries, they had lived under the rule of the great empires, taxed, enslaved, ignored. Now they heard of humans who stood against a mighty fleet and did not bow. To them, the humans were not monsters. They were a spark of resistance in a galaxy long drowned in fear. On Earth, the news of Vera 9 spread quietly through hidden networks. The public did not know everything, but enough whispers reached them. Families gathered around radios, workers paused in factories, soldiers stood straighter in training halls. They all felt the same fire: pride, fear, and determination. The words of the fallen captain became a silent oath. Phase 2 complete, repeated in quiet voices like a prayer. In the hidden fleet near Neptune, commanders studied the recordings of the clash, the strategies, the sacrifices, the enemy mistakes. One officer said softly, "They underestimated us once, they will not do so again." The commander shook his head, his eyes sharp. "They will, because arrogance blinds them, and that is our greatest weapon." The Krail Dominion, humiliated, licked its wounds in silence. Their admiral stood in front of his rulers, his head bowed in shame. "They fought like shadows," he said. "They turned the field against us. We lost more than ships. We lost certainty." The rulers raged, demanding vengeance, but their fleets were broken, their pride torn. Even their rivals in the galaxy mocked them. How can the mighty Krail be defeated by children? They laughed. But behind closed doors, the same rivals felt unease claw at their hearts. Smugglers carried broken pieces of human technology across black markets. Railgun shells, drone fragments, melted armor. Aliens studied them, expecting to see crude tools. But instead they found designs that were simple yet brutally effective. One engineer whispered, "This is not primitive, this is terrifyingly clever." Another added, "If this is what they build in silence, what else are they hiding?" The echo of fear reached even the darkest corners. In a prison asteroid, chained, slaves whispered to each other, "Did you hear? Humans fought the Dominion and survived." Their chains felt lighter, their eyes brighter, as hope returned to them. In a warlord's palace, mercenary leaders argued whether to take contracts. Against humans, some said yes for money. Others shook their heads violently. "Fight humans. I'd rather fight the stars themselves." And in the shadows of space, humans listened. They did not speak loudly. They did not boast. They allowed the galaxy to drown itself in rumor and fear, because every whisper worked in their favor, every frightened laugh, every nervous glance, every secret hope. It all became part of the storm building around them. At last, in a dark chamber deep beneath Earth's surface, human leaders gathered. Their faces were stern, their eyes lit by the glow of maps and fleets. "The galaxy begins to notice," one general said. Another replied, "Let them notice, but not too much, not yet." The leader at the head of the table leaned forward. "The echoes are spreading, and soon they will become thunder. But remember, we have not even begun." The meeting ended in silence, each leader returning to their hidden duty. Outside, Earth's skies looked calm, children still played, ships still launched, but above the clouds, fleets sharpened their blades, and across the stars, the echo of the first clash refused to die. The galaxy had laughed, but now the laughter was uneasy. The galaxy had mocked, but now the mocking trembled. And through every whisper, one truth began to take shape. The humans were rising, and the stars would never be the same again. Fall of the Second Armada. The Council could not ignore the whispers forever. The defeat of the Dominion at Vera 9 had shaken the galaxy. Merchants spoke of human strength, slaves prayed for human victory, and soldiers feared the thought of fighting them. The elder lords of the Council gathered in their great chamber, their faces red with rage. "This will not stand," they thundered. "The humans must be crushed once and for all." So they called for the Second Armada. It was the pride of the galaxy, a fleet so vast that its arrival turned night into day. Hundreds of warships from every great empire gathered, their hulls shining with banners of power. They believed sheer numbers would erase the shame. They believed humans could not stand against the combined wrath of the Council. The Armada moved like a storm across the stars. Everywhere they went, Smaller races bowed, afraid to resist, when they reached the border where human colonies waited. Their admirals smiled with cold certainty. This time, one said, there will be no survivors. But deep in the black of space, humans were waiting. Not 3 ships, not a handful of defenders this time. An entire hidden fleet emerged from the shadows. Dozens of warships slid out from asteroid fields, silent and dark, their weapons already charged, their engines ready. The battle began without warning. The second Armada opened fire, beams of light tearing across the void. Explosions thundered in the silence of space. But the humans did not scatter. They did not break. They moved like predators in a hunt, fast, precise, merciless. Railguns screamed, firing slugs of metal that ripped through the largest battleships. Missiles launched, in swarms, weaving past enemy shields, striking engines and reactors. Drone clouds spread like storms, crawling over enemy hulls, cutting wires, tearing weapons apart. Human pilots dived into the chaos, weaving between burning wrecks. Every maneuver was planned, every strike calculated. The alien admirals shouted, in disbelief, they should be overwhelmed, why are they not falling? But the humans fought with something the Council had never understood. They fought not for conquest, not for pride, but for survival. And survival made them unstoppable. One human destroyer took fire from 3 enemy cruisers, its hull shattering. The crew refused to abandon ship. Instead, they drove their burning vessel straight into the largest enemy carrier. The explosion tore through half the enemy formation, a sacrifice that left even the bravest aliens frozen in shock. In the command ship of the humans, a young officer reported calmly, enemy losses mounting, their formation breaking. The commander gave a simple nod, his voice steady. Do not let them regroup. Press forward. Hours passed, and the battlefield became a graveyard of giants. The Council's Armada, once proud and unstoppable, was torn apart piece by piece. The stars burned with the wreckage of hundreds of ships. Flames and shadows drifted in silence. A reminder of arrogance shattered. The surviving alien captains begged their admirals to retreat, but pride chained them. Their voices shook with anger. We cannot retreat, we are the Council, they shouted. Yet one by one, their ships were silenced, their voices lost to fire. At last, the order came too late. Fall back, retreat, save what remains. But by then, half the fleet was already gone. The second Armada, the pride of the galaxy, was broken. Across the stars, survivors sent desperate transmissions. Some begged for mercy, others warned their homeworlds. Most repeated only one line over and over. Do not provoke the humans. Do not provoke them. In the council chamber, silence filled the air. The elder lords who once laughed now stared at each other with pale faces. Their pride was broken, their voices weak. For the second time, their strength had failed against the so-called children of Earth. Meanwhile, in the hidden human base, the victory was not celebrated with cheers. There was no joy, no laughter, only quiet resolve. The commander looked at the map, the wreckage still glowing across space. This is only the beginning, he whispered. His officers nodded, their eyes burning with the same cold fire. In the colonies, families listened to the reports in silence. The shattered council. The council chambers of the galaxy were once full of noise, debates, laughter, pride, and arrogance. But today, silence ruled the great hall. The tall crystal pillars stood cold, their light dim, as if even the stars themselves feared to shine here. Ambassadors of 100 alien races sat in heavy silence. Their faces were pale, their eyes downcast. The memory of 2 armadas, proud fleets thought to be invincible, was still burning in their minds. Those fleets now floated as shattered wreckage across space, destroyed by humans. The fear was thick in the air. Some ambassadors trembled, some whispered prayers in their native tongues, and some simply stared at the floor, unable to meet each other's eyes. For centuries, the Council had believed they were the center of power in the galaxy. They decided wars, they controlled trade, they mocked and dismissed weaker races, and above all, they had laughed at humans, But not anymore. One ambassador from the Rythak Empire broke the silence. His voice shook, his long fingers tapping against the table. They crushed 2 armadas. 2, our strongest fleets. How is this possible? They were primitives. They were supposed to be nothing. Another, from the insectoid Kreth, hissed in panic. Reports say their ships move like shadows. Their weapons tear through shields as if made of paper. Their fleets fight as if they know our every move before we make it. We cannot win. We must surrender. The word surrender echoed in the chamber like a forbidden curse. No, shouted an ambassador of the proud Voran Dominion, slamming his clawed fist against the table. His voice carried more fear than strength. We are still the council. We cannot kneel before humans. They will enslave us all if we bow. We must fight again. Gather the 3rd fleet. A deep laugh came from the corner, bitter and hollow. The old ambassador of the Sarathi, his scales dull with age, leaned forward. 3rd fleet? 4th fleet? How many fleets will you throw into the fire before you accept the truth? You have not understood. The war is already lost, we just refuse to admit it. His words hung in the cold air, cutting through the denial. Many heads turned away in shame. Then the great doors of the council chamber opened. Every ambassador froze. The silence grew heavier, so heavy that even the hum of the energy lamps felt loud. Slowly, footsteps echoed across the hall. Measured, calm, steady. A human entered. He wore no armor, no crown, no weapon. Just a simple black uniform marked with the emblem of Earth. Behind him, 2 silent guards walked, their faces hidden, their eyes sharp. The ambassadors shifted uncomfortably, in their seats. Some reached for their data pads as if searching for hidden weapons. Others whispered in fear. The human walked straight to the center of the chamber. His eyes were calm, but there was no mercy in them. He looked at the council not with anger, but with something far more terrifying, control. He spoke slowly, his voice steady, yet every word struck like a hammer against stone. For years humanity asked for peace. His gaze moved across the chamber, meeting the eyes of every ambassador who dared to look up. We were ignored. He took 1 step closer, his boots echoing in the chamber. We were insulted. Called weak, primitive, less than nothing. Another step. The silence deepened. When we asked for friendship, you gave us chains. When we asked for space to grow, you gave us war. When we asked for respect, you gave us mockery. He paused, his voice calm as still water. And so you forced us to answer in the only language you respect. War. The ambassadors shifted in their seats, shame and fear mixing on their faces. None dared to speak. The human raised his head, his words sharp, final. We did not want this, but you made us show our strength, and now you will live with the truth you created. Silence followed. The council chamber, once the proud heart of galactic power, felt like a tomb. No ambassador spoke. Some bowed their heads in silent acceptance. Some shook with fear, and a few still clenched their fists in denial. Though their eyes betrayed the truth, they knew resistance was useless. The human turned slowly, his cloak brushing the floor as he walked back toward the great doors. His voice echoed one last time in the vast chamber. Remember this, humanity never wanted war, but you provoked it. And now, the galaxy will never be the same. The heavy doors closed behind him with a final, thunderous sound. Inside, the council sat broken. Some whispered the word surrender. Others whispered survival. But one truth burned in every mind, a truth no one could deny anymore. The humans were no longer weak. They were the power the galaxy had feared and ignored until it was far too late. And in that shattered silence, the galaxy finally understood. The warning had always been clear. Do not provoke the humans. The truth already lost. The galaxy was no longer the same. The great fleets that once patrolled the stars were now nothing but drifting bones of metal, silent graves in the void. Whole empires, once proud and arrogant, had bent their knees or broken apart in chaos. And through it all, one word spread across every star system, whispered in fear, repeated in warning. Humans. In the ruins of an outpost on the edge of Council, space, an alien historian sat alone recording the events for future generations, if there would be any left to listen. His hands shook as he carved words into a crystal tablet. They were warned, he muttered to himself. We were all warned. He remembered the first voice in the council chambers, that trembling alien who had screamed, "Do not provoke the humans." At the time, everyone laughed. They called it madness, cowardice, weakness. Now those same voices had been silenced forever, their fleets destroyed, their cities dark. The historian paused, staring out the shattered window into the endless stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's fleets moved like shadows. They were not seen until it was too late. They did not boast, they did not taunt, they did not rage. They simply acted, and victory always followed. On distant worlds, alien survivors whispered stories like prayers. They strike without sound. They see every move before we make it. They do not fight for conquest, they fight because we force them. And the most chilling whisper of all, they are not finished. In the shattered council chamber, the ambassadors no longer argued. The vast room, once filled with proud voices, now felt hollow. A few species had surrendered openly, signing away their armies and territories to humanity in exchange for survival. Others had vanished, fleeing into uncharted space, hoping distance might protect them. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. There was no escape. The humans had already shaped the galaxy's future. On the flagship Soul's Wrath, a human admiral stood watching the stars. His face carried no smile, no pride, only a cold stillness. His officers worked silently around him. They did not cheer their victories. They did not raise their voices in celebration. To them, this war had never been about glory. It had been about survival. The admiral spoke softly, almost to himself. They wanted monsters. We gave them what they asked for. His second-in-command, a young captain, hesitated before speaking. Sir, will they ever forgive us? The admiral's eyes never left the stars. No, but it does not matter. The truth was already lost the moment they chose war over peace. Across the galaxy, alien children asked their elders, why did we provoke them? Why did we not listen? But the elders had no answer. Shame hung heavier than fear. Whole libraries began to rewrite their histories. Once they told tales of their own empires as rulers of the stars. Now, every record carried a different story, the story of humanity's wrath. One chronicler from the insectoid Kreth wrote, we laughed at the storm before it broke. We mocked the thunder before it struck, and when the lightning fell, it burned the galaxy clean. Humanity was never weak. Humanity was patient, and patience is the deadliest weapon of all. On a ruined moon, among the wreckage of the second, Great Armada, a lone alien survivor floated in a damaged escape pod. His breathing was shallow, his wounds deep. He stared out the cracked glass, watching the human ships move in formation across the battlefield. They did not hunt survivors. They did not fire on the helpless. They moved like an unstoppable tide, calm and certain. The survivor pressed his forehead against the glass and whispered into the void. They cried out, but no one listened. His voice broke. And now the galaxy belongs to them. In the end, no great speech declared humanity the rulers of the stars. No banners were raised, no crowns were placed. Humanity simply stepped into the space that had been left open, the space carved out by arrogance, ignorance, and the refusal of the council to listen. The galaxy had been warned. The warning had been ignored, and now, forever written into history, one lesson remained, carved into every broken world, whispered in every shadowed hall. Do not provoke the humans, because when pushed, when mocked, when forced to reveal their true strength, humanity was not simply another race in the stars. They were the storm that reshaped the galaxy, and nothing would ever undo what had already been lost.